Hey again, this is Andy from potatoesandpearls.com. This video is going to be a little bit different than what I normally do. I am going to give a review of Blue Apron. This isn't a first impressions video. I have been getting Blue Apron boxes for a while. I don't get them every week. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but I do get them. I have been getting them before. So I am going to give a honest, truthful review. This video is a little bit long, and I'm going to leave some timestamps below just so you can skip if you want to, or if you want to see me make all the meals, you can. And I'm going to get into that right after this. Just a quick rundown of Blue Apron. You get to choose 3 out of the 8 meals that they give you to choose from for the week. You're able to control your delivery up to 7 days in advance. So let's say that you don't need it for the week, or you don't need it for a couple of weeks or a month. You can go in onto the website or the app and adjust when you want boxes delivered. If you're part of Weight Watchers, they do have a Weight Watchers menu, and the meals come for 2 servings or 4 servings. For a box that has 3 meals with 2 servings each, it's $59.94, and for the 4 serving box, it's $101.88. If you have special dietary restrictions, like you're a vegetarian or you don't eat certain types of meat, they do give you those options as well. And they also sell wine and kitchen utensils. The first recipe that I'm going to make is the smoky chicken and brown butter orange sauce. As you can see, each recipe comes with a recipe card. It has the ingredients that you're going to need down at the bottom, so you know what to grab out of the refrigerator, but what they've given you is what you need. And then it has the directions on the back. Every item that you need for each recipe will be labeled appropriately. The only thing is, when it comes to garlic, normally they just throw in a clove of garlic. Where you might have multiple recipes that need garlic, you just pull from the same, not clove, but the same bunch. And so as you can see, we have the ingredients here, and the small things that are already pre-measured, like butter and honey, they're going to be in the knick-knack bag. With every Blue Apron recipe, they do tell you on the instructions to make sure that you wash and dry your vegetables. So in every frame here that you'll see of me cooking, I have already washed and dried my vegetables, so just keep that in mind. And then I am now getting the chicken prepared. They already give you the appropriate seasoning in a packet. What they'll say in the recipe is put on like as much as you want or as little as you want. You may have some left over, which I like, because then it gives you the option to like heavily season or just season a little bit, but it's already the appropriate blend of flavors. And so they don't give you salt and pepper in the box, because everybody mostly has salt and pepper. So sometimes I won't put in pepper if I don't want to. Sometimes I may not add salt, or I may sprinkle in a little bit of salt, but it just gives you a little bit of options for your seasonings. And so I'm just prepping the chicken here. I have gone ahead and put the chicken in the oven like the recipe says, and I am chopping up the garlic. It just says to give it a rough chop, so I am just roughly chopping up the garlic. No real method to what I'm doing. And then next I am chopping up the cabbage. So in this recipe, it does call for purple cabbage, which once again is something they provided. I do not personally like cabbage, but because I paid for this box, I am going to try it. It's nothing really wrong with it, I just don't like it. Those potatoes that I cooked up earlier, I had put into a pot with water boiling so they could cook like the recipe told me to do. and they are done. So I am adding in some butter. I did add in a little bit of olive oil per the recipe, and I am going ahead and smashing up the potatoes. It's not very much because this is a 2-person meal or 2-serving meal, so I've smashed those up. And then the next thing that I am doing is squeezing the oranges out, or squeezing the orange juice out of the oranges. This recipe does call for orange juice, and they don't just give you orange juice in a bottle for freshness sake. So I'm just cutting the orange. I just cut the orange in half, and I am squeezing it into a bowl and trying to make sure that I don't get seeds and things like that into the bowl and pulp, which wasn't too hard. It was just a matter of squeezing. If I had a handheld juicer, I probably would have used that instead. It would have made it a little bit easier, but it's fine just squeezing the juice into the bowl. Granted, I don't need a lot of juice. The brown butter orange sauce also calls for jalapenos. It doesn't say how a particular way to cut them. It's just roughly chop. So that's what I'm doing. I'm roughly chopping the jalapenos, and once again, this will go in the sauce. In between this time of chopping up vegetables and making the mashed potatoes and preparing for the sauce, I have taken the chicken out of the oven, and it is resting per the instructions on the recipe card. And so I have put olive oil, garlic, and I am adding in the cabbage into the saute pan to get that to cook. It does have me add in some water, so that's what you see here. And I am just cooking up the cabbage once again in that garlic. I added in a little bit of salt, and it does say that on the recipe card. So I have cooked the cabbage, taken it out, and now I am making the sauce that's supposed to go on the chicken. In the sauce, and it's in the same pan, so it's fine. I've put in butter, and the butter is now getting brown, and I've added in the orange juice, and I am cooking in the orange juice. It says to cook that until the sizzle or the bubbles have gone down. And now I'm adding in the honey. Once again, all of the honey and the butter were all pre-measured, so I didn't have to worry about that. And the orange juice was really just get as much orange juice as you can out of the oranges. And so I'm stirring that together and making it a sauce. And I am adding in the jalapenos into the mix to go ahead and get that flavor going, and mixing the sauce all together so we can go ahead and put it on top of the chicken. I thought this was going to be hard, but it was actually pretty easy to get all of the ingredients and brown the butter. After I finished cooking the sauce, I went ahead and put everything onto a plate, and we are done the first recipe. I thought it was pretty easy. The chicken and the sauce is actually something I would make again. Mashed potatoes are easy to make, and I don't care for cabbage, but it wasn't too bad. So all in all, I like this recipe. The next meal from this box is the prosciutto and Fontina grilled cheese. This is actually probably one of my favorite recipes from the box this week, just because I love cheese and I love prosciutto. The first part of this recipe is to mix up the vinaigrette that is going to be in the side salad that goes with the sandwiches. So I have already put in the Dijon mustard, the red wine vinegar, and it does say to add in olive oil. I believe it says about a tablespoon on the recipe card. I just eyeballed it and then blended everything together. Once again, with Blue Apron, they do the measuring for you for everything that's not like a basic ingredient that most people have, like oil and salt and pepper. So it's just a matter of opening up the package and dumping it into a bowl. I chopped and washed the kale off camera, and so I've put that into a bowl, And so then it says to dump the vinaigrette onto the kale and mix that together. So that's what I'm doing now. And once that is fully blended onto the kale, I went ahead and set the bowl aside as it says per the instructions. The next part of the recipe card states to make the spread that is to go onto the sandwich. So I am mixing together the already measured out mayonnaise that is provided by Blue Apron, and I am mixing in the measured out fig spread that is once again provided by Blue Apron, and I am just blending that together so it is all mixed and ready to put onto the bread. Now it's time to put together the sandwiches, so I'm going ahead and putting that spread that it told me to make onto the bread with the directions that were provided by Blue Apron. They actually gave like step by step how to layer the sandwich. So the next thing I'm going to do is put on the cheese that was provided. It didn't necessarily give me like put a cup of cheese or anything like that. It just said to put cheese down, so I put down enough to cover the bread. Then it said to put the prosciutto on top, and so which was provided in a sealed pack, so I went ahead and put the prosciutto on top of the cheese, and then I added in some more cheese on top, and then I put the spread on the other piece of bread and layered it into a sandwich. It provides 2 servings in this one once again, so I did the same for the other sandwich, but you don't need to see the whole production of how to make the same sandwich twice. This last step, I didn't understand reading it, but they do provide pictures, so it made sense once I saw it in a picture. I'm just rubbing a garlic clove on the outside of the bread. Off camera, I cut up the pear and the radish that goes with the kale salad that's been marinating. I did that off camera because I didn't think you all wanted to see me cut up a pear and a radish. And this is the finished product. Once again, this was probably my favorite meal just because who doesn't love a grilled cheese? The last recipe that was in the box was the Salmon and Farro. I love how Blue Apron packages their seafood. Every time I get seafood from them, it's in like a nice airtight packaging. Actually, most of their packaging is just really, really nice, but I really like how they package their seafood. And so we're gonna go ahead and cook this last recipe. The first part of this recipe calls for cutting up a zucchini. I peeled off the outer layer of skin, just some of it, just because I don't really like a lot of zucchini skin. So that was a personal preference, not a part of the recipe. So I've gone ahead and peeled that, and then it says to cut it in half and then cut it up into little slices. After I've done that, the next portion was to cut up the dates. It says a rough chop. I found that cutting up the dates were really hard. You had to get the pit out, which they did remind you of in the directions, but cutting up the rest of it was pretty difficult just because it is very sticky and it was a little bit tough. While I was cutting up the zucchini and the dates, I had water boiling on the stove for the farro, and so I am going ahead and dumping that into the boiling water. It does give me how long to cook it for on the recipe card. And I am now getting ready to prep the salmon. With the salmon, because it is a 2-serving recipe, it is cut up, or I am going to need to cut it up into 2 separate pieces. And so this salmon still has the skin on it, so I did have to work a little bit to cut through. I don't think if there's like a proper fish knife, I don't have one, so I did have to go ahead and cut through the salmon to make 2 separate pieces, and once again that was a little hard. So once again, they give you the option with the seasoning packet to put on as much or as little as you like. So when I finally did cut through the salmon, I'm going ahead and adding the seasoning to the fish on the front and on the back per the directions. And I did add salt. They give the option to sprinkle on pepper as well, but just based upon the flavor of the seasoning, I didn't want to add pepper. And then off camera, I went ahead and put the 2 fillets in a skillet and cooked them per the directions on the recipe card. In the same skillet that I just finished cooking the fish, I am cooking the zucchini that we chopped up in the beginning of this recipe. I've taken the fish out and I've just wrapped it in aluminum foil to keep it hot, and that's actually in the instructions on the Blue Apron recipe card. And so I'm just sauteing the zucchini with a little bit of salt and pepper, which once again is left up to your discretion. And so in the pot where the farro had cooked and I've already drained the water out, I'm going to add in the dates that I cut up earlier. I'm going to add in some red pepper that was provided by Blue Apron in already the appropriate measurement, and I just chopped it up a little bit and put it in there. And then I'm adding in the zucchini that we just sauteed in the skillet, and I am adding in almond slithers, which were also provided by Blue Apron in a packet, so it was already pre-measured out for this particular recipe. I'm gonna blend this all together. This is a hot side dish, not like a cold salad or anything, so we'll go ahead and get this mixed up. And that is the end of the final recipe that came in my Blue Apron box. It did have a cream that you put on top of the fish that was actually really good. I wasn't expecting it to be that good, but it was super good, and it wasn't something that I had to make. It literally just came in like a little container that once again Blue Apron provided. And this meal was pretty good. I ate it for dinner and I also ate it for my lunch. So with the Blue Apron boxes, I do enjoy them. They're really good for those weeks that I know I'm going to be busy or didn't have a chance to get to the grocery store or wasn't planning on going to the grocery store. And then I already have at least 3 meals for the week that are already pre-planned. So it's super helpful in that aspect. I will say the one downside of Blue Apron is even though you can pick meals that, like, I don't personally eat beef, but I can pick meals that don't have beef in it, sometimes you can't avoid certain ingredients that you don't like. Like, I don't like cabbage really. I've never eaten dates. So even though I'll try it, sometimes it's not my favorite thing. But all in all, I really do enjoy the boxes. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you are into food, I do a little bit of travel videos and I do a little bit of home DIY videos. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.